We are live. Peace, 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 and much love, family. Welcome to another episode of Knowledge Radio, place where knowledge is born. This is your host, Knowledge Born Online, and we got royalty in the building. You understand what I'm saying? It's been 4 years since we had a conversation directly, indirectly over the years. We've been in support of one another, and I'm proud and honored to have, uh, in my opinion, one of our foremost hip hop scholars. One who lives his culture and one who does what he does on the daily. So, uh, becomes my honor and privilege at this time to introduce some, present to others, and welcome back to the platform. One of the greatest scratchers to ever touch some records, DJ Johnny Juice in the building.
Peace, peace, respect.
How you doing, my brother?
I'm doing good, man. I'm sorry for the late start. I was at a Black Lives Matter rally that ended up having a little bit of issues with the local law enforcement and some of the actual residents. So we had to take care of that before the actual rally started. So, we got off to a late start.
Well, what's that temperature like in New York right now in regards to everything that's going on? I know there are temperaments around the nation, uh, but the birthplace of hip hop, what is it feeling like right now?
Well, obviously, man, we've been feeling this type of agitation for decades. Obviously, hip hop was born from a systemic oppression and a system of benign neglect that was occurring in the Bronx in the 70s that kind of led the, the inner city cats to shout out, real loud, we're not taking this anymore. And hip hop movement began. Ironically, the All-Star movement in New York with the Finding All Stars also began from the same oppressive and downpressed system. So New York was a hotbed, and it's always been a hotbed, and now it's coming to a head. Uh, NYPD doesn't have the best record when it comes to dealing with people of color. You know what I'm saying? With the Amadou Diallo shooting, Abner Louima, things of that nature, man. It's so those things are just, this isn't anything that's new, but now it's catching some steam. We're rolling downhill because the rest of the world is now watching, and you know you've been screaming something for so long, and people saying, yeah, right, you a liar, or no, that's not true. And then when finally it starts to become true now, and everybody starts looking, now it's like, I told y'all. You see what I'm saying? And that gives a lot of us a little bit more strength to push it even a little further.
That's real. That's real. So this societal pressures that birth, especially in the lanes that you come in, you come in a lane very versatile with being a b-boy, being a graffiti artist. You see what I'm saying? Like even taking the stage, and you see a lot of these elements coming back today. You see what I'm saying? You see it present day. You see a lot of these things that are going on. The music plays a factor in regards to what it is, but also they taking with the spray cans, stuff we went to jail for. You understand what I'm saying? We went to jail for spray painting, uh, and graph art. So a lot of these things coming back full circle with fearless brothers and crews like yourself who kind of set the stage but didn't get the recognition. But now this has become something as a form of rebellion, here in the States and all over the globe, with a slogan. You see what I'm saying? So, from fight the power to Black Lives Matter. You see what I'm saying? So like you could see that, coming back in a way, and I definitely want to know your thoughts on the whole situation, and you know that role again in hip hop as you've seen all over the world. Um, rooting a lot of these things that we see.
Well, Chuck said it on Time Bomb. Cycles, life goes in cycles. New is old, but I'm not no psycho. And things always have a way of rolling around. You know what I'm saying? Um, this fight that we're fighting now has been fought for many, many years. Someone actually told me the other day that George Floyd was the straw that broke the camel's back. I'm like, the camel's back has been broken. That camel's been dead and buried decades ago. You act like we just got mad. I'm gonna tell you, racism isn't new. You know that. You know, oppression isn't new. This country was founded on oppression. This country was founded on on colonialism and and things like systemic violence, and that's been happening forever. When the Greeks went into Egypt and raided the great library of Alexandria, and the great civilizations in the Middle East, Mesopotamia, and of course Persia. These things have all had a way of being squashed by the European, and the United States started the same way. Europeans coming here, killing off the country under slavery, and I'm Puerto Rican. I'm indigenous, man. So I have the best or the worst, depending on who's looking at you. Combination of DNA. African American, the straight up African, and then I have indigenous, native. My DNA has proved that. So, it seems that the world revolves around taking advantage of people, the minority to build up the elite. And America is no different. They have a problem in that.
So if you could take a moment, I know this is probably impossible for you. If you could take a moment to kind of categorize some of your greatest and not so great moments in hip hop, over the years, what would you say they were?
My personal one.
Your personal ones.
What my personal one? Oh, all right. Some of my probably most favorite ones would be in winning DJ battles or b-boy battles on a small scale. Anytime I won a b-boy battle, that was like, it was like winning a little battle in a war, and it was just like that. You standing face to face with cats right across the cipher from you, and door comes on, and it's like, yo, there's no, you don't look at your boys. Just you go ahead, you do your thing, and you got to take care of this man in front of you. And it's proud that every time I went there, I presented. It was seeing you. Nobody lost. You know, and there was nobody to thank but myself for my hard work and my diligence. So every one of those was a proud moment. Obviously, going into the Long Island Music Hall of Fame in 2008. And of course, in 2013 on the stage, being broadcast by HBO, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction of Public Enemy. So those are huge, I think, apexes in a career that spanned over 3 decades. Awards always wonder, meeting the emotions, meeting the staples and the staple singers, Mandrill, meeting people like that and speaking to them and learning what their struggle was and having the knowledge. Those are probably just like
Now, for the culture as a whole, You know, what about some moments, that you witnessed, you know,
I was fortunate to be around some pretty some pretty big moments in hip hop. I would say very profound uh, events. I remember when Mikey D won the New Music Seminar as an MC in 1988. He beat Raven Masters to win the MC title, and he won his belt. And then Melly Mel walks on the stage with Grandmaster Caz. Melly Mel won in '87. So he had his belt. Melly Mel tells Mikey, "Yo, you won this year, I won last year. But in order to beat a man, you got to beat the man. Whoever wins takes home both belts." And Mikey was a little hesitant, but then Mikey said, "Let's do it." And Mikey spanked him. And but
hmm,
halfway through Mikey's second round, Mel took the belts and just left. And it was like, yo, on a power move, like what? And that was crazy. It was just nuts. Um, of course, I was around for some big socio-political movements. The issues that happened at Howard Beach, um, and some issues that allow Public Enemy to speak out and become a voice for the voiceless. The emergence of people like the Beastie Boys, which changed hip hop forever and allowed, the inclusion of all races and colors and creeds to join in and make it a culture meant to be universal if you ask Africa about it. And of course, Africa's rise to power and embrace I was very fortunate and sad to hear, we don't tolerate that. Nobody tolerates that. Um, and I was around some big moments, me around as a child, as an elementary school kid, trying to be part of my B-boy crew, and I'm a B-boy, and eventually an MC, and then becoming part of the Lisa the New School, which was my original crew, me, Brown, and Busta, before Chuck changed their names. And, you know, watching these kids grow. And, I say kids because Buster was a little younger than me. But me and Brown school together. So did Dinko. He was a year younger. So this whole thing I've been on so long, it doesn't seem like it's some separate culture. It's just my life. You understand what I'm saying?
that's real. I'm waiting for the book. We need the book, or we need the real docu series, or both. We need. I haven't seen anything great hip hop wise overall writing since Kumo D. There's a God on the mic, with the exception of Black Dot's books. He takes a hip hop approach and center, the Black Dot, in regards to the issues that we faced then and now. So I think it would be iconic, some kind of way to, have that, in the
I um
archives of what it is.
I agree. I agree that there's not enough written um information and material from an actual hip hop practitioner due to the lack of better phrasing in the marketplace. We have a lot of third party people writing, you know,
Right.
like and that's cool. I'm not gonna name no names, but there's a lot of books by cats looking from the outside in. I talked to Raheem from the Furious Five. He got a book coming out. I talked to Grand Mix of DXT. He got a book coming out. Um, I am on the fence about writing 3 books. One,
Mm,
which is about my time with Public Enemy, called Behind Enemy Lines.
mm,
Another one that is a philosophy book. It's my philosophy on life that happens to include hip hop, martial arts, the military, and I'm a veteran. I'm a 6-year veteran, uh, disabled veteran at that. Also, I've been a martial artist for over 45 years. I was on a national team and everything. Multiple state and national championships, you name it. So my philosophy is based on that. It's very similar to the Tao of Jeet Kune Do. The book would be called something along that nature, like the Tao of Hip Hop or something, whatever. I haven't come up with a title, but it'll be mainly my philosophy on life, and I'll use examples, pointing towards hip hop or martial arts or my military background to explain why I think the way I think. Um, and the third book would be, by the way, there's no biography of Johnny Juice because I don't think that's really important. I think my personal life is not important. I think the reasons why I think the way I think are more important. So the third book would be my philosophy on what hip hop is, where I make the argument that it's not really a culture, but it's more of a way of expression. So I have a theory which I copyrighted called the diffractive prism theory of hip hop, where if you've ever seen a prism, that's where you shine light in it and it breaks it into all these different colors. Prisms come in different sizes, and the angle at which you shine the light would make it break into different colors on the color spectrum. So I believe that internal to every person is a prism. And when you put things into it, and when I say put things into it, I mean experiences, things you see, things you hear, it comes out a certain way. But everybody's prism is different. So the way it comes out is different. But that process from translating what goes in and what comes out, that process is hip hop. Not the product, not what comes out, but the process. Example, Run DMC wears fedora hats. When they wear fedora hats, it's hip hop. When every other white person that rocks fedora hats rocks them, they're not hip hop. It's not because the hat is magically hip hop. It's because it's being processed by the person wearing it. If you hand me 2 copies of Big Beat by Billy Squire, you're handing me 2 rock records. When I put them on the turntables, they're still 2 rock records. When I process them by utilizing my scratch techniques, that process is hip hop. Once I stop doing that, they're just rock records again. So the product, the thing at the end of the, and that's an American thing. Everything has to be what was created. There's no result. I DJed for hours and never taped it. That what I did wasn't hip hop because it wasn't. You didn't hear it. Somebody didn't record it. The process is hip hop, not the result.
I would say if you did take a moment to write some memoirs, that fourth book, I think it would be incredible for your family and families. You know, it's important to leave some kind of archival record because the other families will attempt to misrepresent you and who you are and your relevance. So if you write it in your own words, they can't be misconstrued.
Well, I'm being misrepresented now. Not physically at this moment with you, but I'm just saying in this time frame. I'm always going to be misrepresented because people don't see you through your words and actions. They see you through their perception of your words and actions. And their perceptions are limited to their experiences, not yours. Right. I happen to be an electrical engineer and a computer scientist. So my knowledge of science and math is formidable. So when someone talks to me about that, I'm in their space. But if someone talks to somebody not with that, without that knowledge, then they're gonna, totally not get what the person's talking about, no matter how colloquial or how layman you try to, represent everything. So when people see what I do, they don't understand the underlying context sometimes, and that's not my fault. My fault isn't, the only thing I can do is present things. It isn't up to me to make sure that you understand them. So most of the time you're going to be misunderstood, especially if you're operating, mentally on a different plane than they are. I'm not saying that I'm some genius. What I'm saying is that Some people, most people are kind of lazy and they don't want to do the research. They don't want to do the background information search. And as Chuck would call them, or as I used to call it, dumb, dumb MFers with smartphones. So you have a device in your pocket that can give you every piece of information that you could possibly imagine, and you still don't know things. It's like, come on, dude, are you kidding me? So you're not going to change these people. Uh, all the knowledge in the world is not going to change these people. So my children, and I have grandchildren now. I have 6 of them. My children are aware of my accomplishments. All my children are accomplished. My youngest just graduated high school, is on her way to college as a biomed major. So my kids, they're doing what they need to do, and I'm very proud of all of them. And I'm sure that their children will turn out great, but they know what daddy's done, and that's cool, and they can pass it on just like the griots.
That's real. That's real. Um, are you passing your craft? Is it a way for you to pass your craft to some younger people? Are you working with some younger people, either directly, indirectly, through some kind of organization, foundation, something like that, for the craft to continue in a pure manner?
Oh, absolutely. I work with the Uniondale Community Council. They have a program called Energetic Enterprise Youth Studio. A friend of mine that I've known since junior high school, Daquan Massey, Paul Daquan Massey, has been around us since back in the day. Always been around. Decided to start a youth community studio for kids that have an after school project type thing to go to, stay off the streets. For a while, I was teaching there. To the program kind of shut down for a while, but it's back open again. I teach DJing, music production, music literacy, and even computer literacy for people that need to learn that. And it's just more than that. I mentor them, just like Paul does. I've had some of my old students went on to Full Sail University and get degrees in music and production. One of my students is a certified massage therapist living down south. He still contacts me. You know, he's married and he's living his best life. But I knew him when he was a high school kid, and dude's come a long way, and that means a lot to me that these kids could move on, and apply what I've helped instill in them. I still do it. I also available. I'm also available to anybody that really needs any help. If I have the time, I am, very busy with my life and my kids, my grandkids, but I never turn away an opportunity to help people if they really need it. Earlier today while I was at the rally, I had about at least 5 or 6 text messages about needing help with how to compress some drums or how to do this or that. And, and I help them along, but I think more so than just the knowledge of how to do something is how to think logically, how to properly assess a situation and move forward in a logical fashion to not only fix the problem, but to keep it from recurring. And I think that's kind of more important than, let me just teach you how to scratch, because that's the hip hop way. Because if you can think logically and you could start, understanding what the box is, then you can start thinking outside the box, because you can't break the rules until you know what they are.
That's real. That's real. Can we talk longevity? You mentioned 3 decades. Like, what are some of the secrets to success? I think we have like a very instant type of situation where you might make a decision instantly and not understand the long term ramifications. So, from your perspective, just on life and especially in the business for people that are coming up, like, what are some of the keys to longevity, maintaining longevity?
First thing, whatever you do, I don't care if it's music or whatever field it is, do what you love, because there's gonna be times when no money's coming in, there's no gigs coming in, things dry up, and if you don't love what you do, you're gonna leave. I remember when it started getting hot in hip hop in late '80s, early '90s, everybody was a wannabe rapper here, there, or whatever. They thought that was an easy, path to making some kind of money. The thing is, as soon as you're not making money, you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. But if you love it, you're gonna do it whether there's money there or not. People that These rich dudes that go out and play golf on the weekends, they don't make money playing golf. Matter of fact, they spend a considerable amount of money playing golf. They spend money to do what they love to do. So if you have that mindset, this is what I love to do, and if I have to spend some money to get some equipment or buy a nice mic, then you're not disappointed when that money isn't automatically, you don't get a return on investment. You're not sitting there saying, where's the 5,000 I spent on this equipment? I'm supposed to make it back. And then when that doesn't happen, you get frustrated, you drop out of it and try to find another hustle. This isn't a hustle. You love what you do or you don't love what you do. I know people that play spades every weekend. I don't see anybody making a lot of money playing spades. They just have fun. They drink with their peeps, they play spades, and at the end of the day, they go home like, yo, bragging rights. Well, being an MC or being a DJ or being a b-boy or being a graffiti artist, whatever you want to be, it's about really, if you really love it enough to that you try to get as good as you can doing it, and you challenge yourself. You're not trying to be better than the next man. You're trying to be better than you were the day before. And I push myself every day, even now, being that I've been doing this forever, and I'm half a century old and I'm still doing this. And the reason why is because I'm still not satisfied with how good I should be. I touch some turntables. I'm like, I can be better. And I'm still a fan. So I'll look up DJs like DJ Craze or Rob Swift or, Total Eclipse, or DJ Throwdown, who won the DMC US Championship the other year. These cats are nasty, man. I look at them, I'm like, yo, damn, these guys are doing some nice stuff. And I update my repertoire because I don't care what I did in the past. This is 2020. I got to be good in 2020, not in 1986. In 1987 when you heard me on a record. So if you hear me today, you're not going to hear some dude that you heard in 1986. You're going to hear a dude that sounds like he's rocking it hard in 2020. And that's what keeps me involved. That's what keeps me around this for a long time. It keeps me fresh because I don't rest on any laurels or any alleged, achievements. I keep pushing forward like I'm new to this culture and I still pay my dues every day.
That's powerful right there. Um, the balance in between, how important is balance in what you do. I know you said like this is like your regular life, but you also mentioned that there's some, you find like you extremely busy on the other side. So how do you balance both?
Well, life is about balance. If anything, my martial arts training taught me how to live my life. It's about balance. If you learn how to do a kick on the right side of your body, you got to learn how to do a kick on the left side of your body. If you know how to do this technique with this side of your body, you got to learn to do it with the other side of your body. So everything gets, an equal amount of effort and focus. So if I'm doing my schoolwork, going to college, and I went to college and I got my degree, and I put in the same amount of focus I did when I was trying to learn that, that air chair or that freeze or that windmill or that 1990. The same focus that I was trying to learn how to do transformer scratches very early in their creation, I put towards going to, in my classes or when I teach kids. No matter what I teach them, I put the same amount of energy and focus into everything I do. I set goals and I aim to keep those goals, met within a reasonable time frame. And reasonable is very important because some of us set unreasonable goals. So people come to my studio talk about I need to hit record, by the end of the year. I'm like, Dukes, you just started doing this, man. You know what I'm saying? It's possible. I'm not saying it's impossible, but you got to be reasonable at the same time. I don't have expectations. I just go with the flow, but I do have goals, and I know that there's a natural progression of things. I constantly learn new things and I apply them. So it's easy for me to multitask or go back and forth between multiple things, multiple projects, because they utilize the same skill set. So I've been able to balance my life like that. I've also been able to, fortunately, drag my family into some of this stuff because if you make it fun enough, they want to get down, you know. So I bring my daughter to Run DMC street naming in Queens. You know what I'm saying? She calls him Uncle Darrell or Uncle Joe. You know, of course, now she's a high school graduate. She's like, damn, Dad, you didn't tell me they were famous. I'm like, well, they've always been famous. You just knew him as Uncle Darrell and Uncle Joe. She knows Uncle Chuck. Uncle Chuck D's Uncle Chuck, you know, and Uncle Chuck is a famous dude too. So now she's understanding the context of how they fit into this world. But to her, they're just people that always been around that kind of encouraged her to be who she was. So, you know, it's not really like I keep these lives separate. You know, it's not a Johnny Juice the DJ, Johnny Juice the producer, Johnny Juice the father. It's just Johnny Juice. And Johnny Juice some days does this and some days he does that. You know, and that's how you balance it out. You know, you just like anything else, man. When I get tired of watching the TV, I get up and do something else. So, you know, it's that simple.
Now, what about traveling? What are some of your biggest takeaways from traveling? Like, I know you traveled in the military also, but you know, out here on this scene, hip hop, you know, and the takeaway from world travel experience.
Well, first of all, I think it's a necessity for every citizen of the United States to grab a passport and get the hell out of the country. Like, for real. You want to learn about life? Visit other countries. See what they live like. These cats are walking around the United States right now with masks, bugging out. Yeah, there's other people who've been living like that for years in their countries. You understand what I'm saying? There's people that have been going through extremely drawn out periods of war. So you think, well, not you, but some people here think, oh man, I hate this. I hate that we're quarantined. You hate that you're quarantined. Imagine it being in you know, like Anne Frank in an attic during Nazi Germany, where she lived in a room, a 500 square foot room for like 2 years or something like that, you know, every day with a family of 4 or 5. So people have a problem, you know, staying in their nice cribs, you know, all day and maybe getting out every once in a while to buy groceries. Dukes, you have no idea. So, you know, we're fortunate. Traveling allows us the luxury of seeing how other people live and really getting a good perspective on the extremes of life. That way we can understand where we fit and it'll help us deal with our lives better. You know, if you've been to a country where it's super oppressive, you learn to appreciate the fact that while America has problems, we're not as oppressive, so that when oppression does rise up, we're able to address it immediately because we've seen it before in a more dynamic fashion. And those kind of things are lost on a lot of Americans. That's why when the Black Lives Matter protest happens, you got all these people, anti-protesters, standing up saying, oh, you don't know how good you have it. I'm like, dude, you don't know how good you have it. You ain't never been nowhere. So get out of the country, travel, meet those people, talk to them. Not just go, you know, if you're a hip hop cat performing, don't just go to the club, perform in the country, have their food and bounce. Talk to the people. Figure out what they are, who they are, how they are. Their music and culture and food happen to be very intertwined, which is good because the first thing you usually experience from another culture is their food or their music. So it tells you a little bit about them, but get out there, talk to people, man. You got a device, like I said, you got a smart device that allows you to interface with people from every single possible culture around the world. Take advantage of that.
That's real. So what's next on the list that you can share with us besides them 8 books you write over them that you don't want to put out?
No, well, I got an album I'm putting out with my boy KJ, with my group The Odyssey. There's some special guests on it: DMC from Run DMC, Chuck D, Cool Kim from the UMCs, aka NY Oil, Charlie Brown, C Boogie Brown, Dinko D's on it. Also, I'm working with Mandrill, the legendary funk soul rock fusion group from the 70s. They got a new album called Back in Town that came out. I'm remixing the whole album. I'm working with some. I'm working with a lot of my heroes. I'm working with the Emotions. Uh, that's right, the Emotions. You got the Best of My Love, the Emotions. Um, I'm working with some young new up and comers. I'm working on an album with all new cats where um, it's kind of funny. I do this album. It's called Babysitting. I got all these young cats, and I throw them all out. These young, these young trap dudes, but I flip their music for them, and I make them learn better. So it's in the format where it looks like I'm babysitting. I'm like, no, you got to do this. Like, you got to eat your vegetables, yo. And they don't want to do it. So I'm trying different things out. I'm working on another anonymous project with some pretty big people. That's going to be strictly protest music, and none of it is hip hop. It's like some straight up rock, Led Zeppelin joints. So there's some stuff coming out, and hopefully, it resonates, not for money's sake, but because a lot of that stuff needs to be heard.
That's amazing. That is amazing. Man, you pulled out some icons. I love it. Um, I talked about balance earlier, and you mentioned something that I didn't get a chance to speak about, bridging the gap between the yesterday's generation and today's generation. How were you successful at bridging that gap, and what kind of tips and advice would you give to some of the generations that you may have come up with these youth nowadays?
Well, one of the things is, you can't talk down to people. You know, we used to doing that to these young hip hop dudes, like, that ain't hip hop and blah 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 blah. And you know, everybody expresses themselves differently. Right now, that trap music is the thing. What they're talking about is whatever. But let's be honest. The very first rap record, whether you want to say it's King Tim the Third by the Fatback Band or Rapper's Delight. Let's go Rapper's Delight because they were an actual rap group. They talked about having money and cars and women, and so we make fun of the little kids for saying that, but the very first rap record was saying that. In the height of the 90s, Puff Daddy was talking about nothing but that. You know what I'm saying? KRS-One used to like saying that he's the teacher, and and cats should know better, and they should have knowledge of self. But his whole first album was called Criminal Minded. He has songs like The P is Free, but the crack costs money, and Criminal Minded, and 9mm Go Bang. And it's like, yo, dude, I understand you've since moved on and evolved and elevated, but at one time you were just like them. So to sit here and say, oh, y'all guys don't know any better, neither did you. We all grow, and you got to give these kids a chance to grow. The little kids, they don't know any better. Now, yeah, is it flooding the market? Yeah, but that's not their fault. Corporate America already put their hooks in hip hop a long time ago. So to bridge the gap, one, especially if you're a non-MC, be good at your craft. Like as a rapper, the excuse is always, oh, well, you don't understand me. That's why you don't, you hating, or you're hating because I'm nice and I got the women or the money. But as a DJ, if you're not good on the turntables, it's extremely evident. There is no, well, my style's just different. No, if you're good or you're bad. It's like a basketball player. You can't just say, I'm a good basketball player, you just don't like my style. Dude, if you're not making buckets, or if you're not good on defense, you're not a good basketball player. There's no, what do you do? You're good at running up and down the court? There's got to be a baseline for skill. And unfortunately, with rappers, the baseline is really gone because it's subjective. It's like, well, he likes what I do. Yeah, but it's still a baseline. I mean, speaking of baselines, Rob Bass. No one would ever accuse, and I love you, Rob, you're my man. No one ever accused him of being in somebody's top 5 MCs of all time. But you can't tell me that It Takes Two is not a top 10 hip hop record.
That's real.
So you don't have to be an incredible lyricist to make a great song. So it's not about criteria. You want to bridge the gap, find common ground. Yo, you like making the party bounce? I can make the party bounce too, but I can do it with maybe a little more introspective lyrics or deeper content. Doesn't always have to be an A record, because after a while, you're going to be too old to be A. And then what? You want to say the old people are too old? In 10 years, you're going to be too old, and then what? So some of them ain't. They're trying to make that bag and be out. They're not trying to have a long career. They're just trying to make their money. In which case, then they don't matter, do they? Because they're not here for the long haul anyway. They're just white noise. They're just somebody to just make a little bit of distraction, and hopefully they'll be gone. And that's good. Maybe this whole industry collapsing is what we need, because when it comes back, only the truly devout and only the people with actual skill are going to survive, like roaches after a nuclear war.
That's real. That is definitely real. Um, I love opportunities to hear how things have evolved over time and how adaptable people have become in regards to, you know, nothing stays the same. Like the only thing that is constant is change. So I'm loving to see the adaptability, even with this situation, like it brought some people and things to light and some skill sets that people may have had dormant. They were activated, so this adaptability, for you being a veteran in the game, how adaptable have you become and how adaptable has hip hop become, since its inception for you?
Well, I've always been adaptable. I mean, when I was in the military, we had a saying: "Become comfortable with being uncomfortable." You know,
That's real.
and anything that comes along, you just deal with it, man. I mean, I've had some tragedies in my life, just like everybody else, but I didn't let it define me. You know, when I was 13, my pops hanged himself in this house right behind me that you see. Right in the garage there, and that was a defining moment for me. I just moved to Long Island, from the Bronx. So I already didn't even want to be here. You know, I missed my friends. I was around a whole bunch of people that didn't exactly look or talk like me. And, I'm like, I don't even want to be here. And this happened. I really didn't want to be here. And I had an opportunity. I could have let that define me and could have done bad in school. And I would have been forgiven. They would have been like, well, his pops just died and la, 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 la. But you know what? That wasn't happening. I did better. I became better. I worked harder, and I was in talented and gifted classes. I busted my butt. I showed them that you're not gonna sit here and tell me, oh, you know what? We knew he was gonna fail because one, he came from the city, so he's not as smart as the kids out here anyway, and two, he's a Puerto Rican kid, so surprised he even speaks English that well. And then three, his father died, so if he starts failing, it's par for the course. We expect it, and I didn't give them what they expected, and I didn't want to make any excuses. So I did that. I pushed through, and I didn't let that define me, along with a whole bunch of other things, including me being paralyzed from the neck down for a while when I was in the military. I had to learn to scratch again. I had to learn to DJ. I had to learn to walk again. A lot of things, but those things made me realize that you're going to run into these kind of things, man, and how you deal with them defines your life, and I dealt with them the best way I could, and I'm still here, and I keep it moving. I push forward, and I'm able to still maintain who I am. I mean, yeah, I could write a trap beat or do that kind of. I don't. That's not what I do. But what I do, I can still make people recognize that it's worth value, and they see that I do it at such a high level that it's evident that I put a lot into my craft, and that's all that matters. I don't have to like, the specific thing you do. I may not be a big country music fan, but I know Garth Brooks is the man and outsold everybody else in that genre. So, you know, game recognized game.
So you named defining moments in your life. What were some defining moments for you in hip hop that you would say for you?
Well, winning the DJ contest that put me down with Public Enemy, um, becoming the vice president of the first all Latino rocking crew. You would call it a b-boy crew, the Bronx Boys Rocking Crew, TBB. Our members in 1979, two of our members, the Burnside Division, Jimmy Lee and Jimmy Lee, asked permission to form their own crew. That crew became the Rocksteady crew. Um, Also, working with some of my My hip hop heroes. I worked with the Beastie Boys, Run DMC, uh, EPMD, Houdini, LL Cool J, Schoolie D. You know, some of the early cats that I was like, yo, these are people. And then also coming up with some of the cats that would later become, you know, hip hop legends in their own right, like Leaders of the New School and a Public Enemy and True Mathematics and De La Soul, you know, and Tribe. You know, a lot of these cats, when you start out, you don't think it's gonna go anywhere. So there's a lot of micro great moments, you know, and I think all of them together make just one, you know, very satisfying hip hop career for me. So all of it together, I think, is greater than the sum of its parts.
If you had to chart a direction for hip hop, where would you take it and why?
If I had to chart it, like if I where I wanted it to go,
Yes.
I want it to go where it's supposed to go. I don't care where it goes. It could die. It doesn't matter. Someone once told me, yo, man, you know, you are hip hop. And I thought about it for a while. And I said, you know what? No, I'm not. I'm bigger than hip hop. Hip hop is this much of me. How dare you relegate me to just hip hop? I'm bigger than hip hop, man. I'm a lifelong martial artist at an exceptionally high level. I'm a scholar. I'm an educator. I'm an engineer. I'm a lot of things. I'm a composer. Forget about hip hop. I write music. So while hip hop is embedded in me and it's something that I love and I'm it's endearing to me and it's a part of me, it is a part of me. And some people say, well, without hip hop, I wouldn't be whatever. Nah, man, without me, hip hop wouldn't be what it is. Hip hop is a combination of all these people that have, you know, inspired and created and produced and have made hip hop this monument. So to say, oh, you wouldn't be nothing without hip hop. Nah, hip hop wouldn't be nothing without us.
All right. Well, final thoughts. Anything you want to shout out? Anybody you want to shout out? Anything you want to plug? Pull our attention to, and final thoughts for the fam, social media stuff like that.
My social media is easy. It's if you're on Twitter, it's at Johnny Juice, JOHNNYJUICE. Instagram is at DJ Johnny Juice. Facebook artist page is DJ Johnny Juice. My email is johnnyjuice@gmail.com. Can't get much easier than those. As far as my projects, I'm still working on The Odyssey. It's spelled ODDYSY. So if you go to theodyssey.com, you can find my new music. As far as shout outs, I like to shout out everybody that's out there working and at their craft and trying to become, you know, a very high level operator in what they do, no matter what it is, whether it's hip hop or not. You know, you got my respect if you're constantly on the grind trying to make yourself a better person. And if everybody did that, then we'd be more empathetic to the next person that somehow, even though he works real hard, sometimes slips and falls and doesn't reach that level he wants to. But it's not really about reaching the level, it's about the act of trying to reach that level. And that gives you a certain type of character that that's lacking in society, I feel. So, you know, we all did that, then you know we have an appreciation for the next man and what he's doing and the next woman and what she's doing, because that's why I like to give a shout out to the women of the world, hip hop or not, who have to deal with, you know, especially women of color, have to not only deal with racism but sexism in a world that still treats them like second class citizens and treats them as objects of sexual desire and objectify them. So they have a bigger climb than most of us do. So big shout out to all the women out there working real hard to get respect for what they really are and not just by what they look like. So, you know, straight up, all my mentors, I love all you guys. My man DJ Big Hig that kind of taught me how to really mix and rock a crowd. My man DJ Will, who was one of my first DJ mentors. Really, you know, I used to watch and learn how to scratch from him. And all the rest of my cats in TBB, TBG, worldwide and global. Love you guys, man. And thank you for having me on the show. And and thinking I was worth somebody. I was somebody worth talking to.
Knock it off. Knock it off. You gave me 3 hours of the greatest hip hop history lesson 4 years ago. And we here 4 years later and we done upgraded. I appreciate you. You know you're welcome here anytime, every time, all the time.
I appreciate that, man. Again, I'm sorry for the late start, man. These are tough times, and we got to adjust and adapt.
Right. All right, fam. We out of here. Peace and
All
love,
right, my
Johnny
brother.
Juice.
Peace, love, and respect.